Welcome to the Bag Maker's Workroom. I am Chris with Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, June 12th, 2025. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. We actually almost didn't make it tonight through no fault of our own. I don't know how much of you are aware that Google somehow got internal problems today. And like, for instance, all of the photos on our website were gone, and the program that we used to go live wasn't working because somehow they're connected to Google. So anyway, it's like when Google's down, the whole world is down. And we were like sitting here kind of hoping, gosh, I hope this comes back up. I hope this comes back up. And sure as the world, it did. So thank goodness we were ready to go. But you never know. Sometimes technology is beyond our control. But we are very glad to be here. We're very glad you're here with us. As you know, we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't join us live, watch the recording on YouTube at any time. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. So we want to say hi to Nancy this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, Nancy. Catherine is here from Ohio. And then we also have Mary. And so thank you so much for joining us. We're talking all about bag flap styles, and we're going to give you some tips on how to create bag flaps. So we are going to start out, of course, by going over the Simply Classic Scoop. I'll show you our pattern of the week, which is the Sienna, one of our most popular patterns. I'm also going to show you some leather, faux leather, and lining that pair well together. We're going to look at some designer bags with interesting styles of flaps. Today, our history is about Strathberry bags. We will then feature you, our customers' bags in Artistry Avenue. And finally, we are going to give away some PDF patterns. So as a reminder, if you have any questions during the live stream, ask them in the chat, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. Also, please take a second to click the thumbs up button below the video, and that will really help us reach more people on YouTube. We really appreciate your support. So we are going to start out with the Simply Classic Scoop. And this is where we talk about things going on here at Simply Classic, events that we will be at, and different places we can meet up with you. But the first one I want to talk about is the Banda Bag online course. We are now sold out of 3 of the 4 colors. The only color we have left is hot pink. It is July 18th through the 28th. And when you are through, you will have this amazing Banda bag. If you have never worked with leather before, this is really a great class for you because the kit includes everything you need. It includes glue, stiffeners, edge, base coat, edge paint. I mean, you name it, it all comes with it so that you can create a Banda bag. You don't have to make any additional investment in the class. It is $350 plus shipping, and that does include your class kit. The pink that you see there, actually, it's really the accent is really a beautiful hair on hide. It's a gorgeous color and really great for summer. So if you would like to get it, go ahead and make sure you do before it sells out, because we are super, I mean, this is just a really pretty one. And I'll show you one in just a second. Actually, here, let me show it to you right now. This is one that Taylor made. Taylor is our operations manager. She has never sewn before. This is her first attempt at sewing, and this is the pink one. So you see it's got a beautiful, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the difference there, the hair on hide, and it's just really beautiful, right? Gorgeous. Pretty color for summer. So in addition to the class kit, you will receive 6 videos, 3 live Zoom sessions. You're also going to get lifetime access to your student portal with all the videos, downloads, and discussions from the course. So check out our events page or the links below to register. And if you have any questions, let me know. I also want to remind you that I will be in Florida, Ruskin, Florida. Barbie Taylor from Genie Designs and I will be doing a retreat down there. And Ruskin is right by Tampa. The retreat is currently sold out. However, we have opened up a wait list, and unfortunately, a couple people have had to back out of it. So if you would like to get added to the wait list, all you have to do is go to the Simply Classic Bag Making Community on Facebook. There's a link there in the description, and you can go ahead and just leave a comment that you want to be added to the wait list. If you don't have Facebook or you're not sure how to do that, just email me that you want to be on the wait list, and we'll make sure that happens. And my email is chris@simplyclassic.net. The other thing we want to remind you about is it is June, and it is almost June 15th. And what that means is that our bag making subscription box is about ready to release. It is amazing how quickly time goes by. And just as a reminder, this is a seasonal subscription box. It opens up this Sunday, June 15th, and basically you get 4 boxes each year. You get one at the end of March, June, September, and December. What it includes is a never-before-seen Simply Classic PDF pattern, access to a video tutorial for the pattern, commercial-free, the faux leather lining and hardware to make your bag, and then there's always other goodies for your workroom included in the kit. Now, let's talk about the cost of this, because we really want to explain that our boxes are a really great value. They're $80 plus shipping each quarter, which is at a minimum 20% savings off the retail price of the items. So if you were to buy the faux leather, the lining, the hardware, the other things, of course, in the box, you are going to pay much more than $80. A lot of other sewing subscription boxes out there only give you like a 5 or 10% off retail discount, but we really want you to understand that we try hard to get things in there for you that are useful and fun and exciting, and it's a great value, 20% off. I mean, that's unheard of. If you want to save even more, you can pay for the full year up front. So it'll be a one-time payment of $320, and you're only going to pay for shipping on your first box. Now, that is open to U.S. residents only. So if you're from Canada, you can certainly still get a subscription box, but that one-time payment isn't available just because shipping is so crazy, as you all know, especially to Canada. So we apologize for that, but we certainly want to include you. So if you subscribed last June, your 1-year subscription has ended. So if you want to stay subscribed, make sure to sign up again. If you're not sure whether you've subscribed, you can log into our website and check your account for details. And also, if it's time for you to resubscribe, we're going to be sending you an email on Monday to remind you about that. Okay? The other thing we want to let you know is that finally, black and white Fusion 45 thread is back in stock. They reached out to us, asked us how many of each we'd like. So we went ahead and ordered it. It's kind of still in process. We can get more. It might take a little bit for us to get it, but for right now, we have it. So go ahead and grab it if you would like to get that Fusion 45 thread. Of course, that's a Tex 45 thread that you can use in domestic machines. Works fabulous. So before we move on, we need to pick our giveaway winner from last week's episode. And as a reminder, we've started giving away a PDF pattern to one person watching and one person live. So we have the name of everyone who entered here, and I'm going to draw one winner. This person will get the PDF pattern for the farfalla, which was last week's pattern of the week. And we asked you to give us your first name and share your summer plans. So we are going to go ahead and kind of mix these up here, and I'm going to grab one, and let's see who has won this week. All right. So Loretta, let's see, T-Wort Turner, 7210. She says, I would love to visit Yellowstone, see bisons, bears, and experience a hot spring. It's on my list for July. So congratulations, Loretta. Please email share@simplyclassic.net within 30 days so we can go ahead and send you your farfalla pattern. So next Thursday, we'll choose a winner from the comments on this episode to win a PDF pattern, and I'll tell you about that more in just a minute. And I will say that I like that idea. We actually have our summer vacation planned as well. We're going to be going to Alaska, woohoo, and we're going to be going in August, the end of August. So we're excited about that. We already have excursions planned. It's not a cruise. We're flying up, but we're going to go see the bears, catch the salmon in the river, and we're going to go on a jet ski to see glaciers. That sounds cold, but we're doing that. So anyway, we're super excited about it. So we are going to talk about our featured product, and our featured product is the Sienna. And the Sienna is one of our most popular bags. You can see we have a Sienna here, and we have a mustard one up there. It is $12.49 this week, and it will be $12.49 through Wednesday, June 18th. So one of the reasons why people like it so much is it's very customizable. There are 3 sizes to choose from, all in the same pattern. You don't need to buy them separately. It's a great value. You have a small, medium, and large, and they're all the same width, they're all the same depth, but the height is different. So this one here is a large, that one up there is a medium, and the difference in the sizes is the large is 10.5 inches tall, the medium is 9 inches tall, and the small is 7 inches tall. So I think that actually Barbie Taylor from Gina Designs recently did a video with her neighbor on making Siennas in leather. So that's a great one if you want to go over to her channel and watch that. She's got, it was a fun little live, and I went on and kind of chatted with them for a while. The other thing about the Sienna is it has 3 different flap options. So option 1 includes they all include thumb locks, but of course you can put whatever you'd like on there for hardware. But option 1 includes a thumb pull in addition to the actual flap. That one needs to be edge painted because it does have raw edges. Option 2 is the same general shape as the option 1, but the edges are folded in and it does not have the thumb tab. And then option 3 is more of just a strap style, and of course, on that example there, we used a little bit larger thumb lock. We have all of these thumb locks in stock. So you can, of course, add one, whichever one you like, to your Sienna, or maybe just change the flap totally or leave the flap off. I mean, again, a pattern is a suggestion, not a rule. So we are going to go to the overhead real quick, and I'm going to show you an example of a Sienna. And this Sienna is leather. This is our embossed ostrich leather in light brown. And let me tell you, this thing is so soft. It is so beautiful. It is absolutely one of my favorite bags that I have ever made, I think. Of course, I ended up doing the option 2 on this flap. It is a crossbody, okay? So because it's leather, I didn't have enough length, so I ended up having to put a roller buckle instead of doing a regular crossbody strap with a slide adjuster. Inside, go ahead and open this up. There are 2 magnetic snaps that hold this closed. And then, of course, on the inside, we have a zipper pocket on one side. We have a slip pocket here on the other. And then, of course, like every Simply Classic pattern, we have to have a key fob. Now, I got the inspiration for this bag when we were in Italy. There was a shop there that, of course, we went into all kinds of shops, but they had one very similar to this. It had a rounded bottom. This is more of a square bottom, but it really is a bag that has made a huge hit, very popular. Again, one of our best-selling bags. So, of course, we're doing 10% off of the Sienna PDF pattern. We're also, or no, excuse me, the PDF pattern is $12.49. We're doing 10% off the hardware kits, which are available in bronze, nickel, and gunmetal, and that discount ends Wednesday, June 18th. And of course, at the end of the hour, we're going to be giving away a Sienna pattern to someone watching live. But right now, I'm going to explain how you can enter if you're watching the replay. And this is only for the people watching the replay. And if you will go ahead and leave a comment, your first name, and a sewing skill you want to learn or get better at. Okay, go ahead and leave that information, and then we will pick a winner at random next week, which is Thursday, June 19th. So anyone who comments before then, you'll get added to the bucket. So the next thing we're going to talk about is perfect pairings. And perfect pairings is where we pair some of our leather and faux leather with matching lining, thread, and hardware. You can use this as inspiration for your Sienna or whatever bag you would like to make. We know it's hard to actually shop online sometimes with colors, and so we really want to show you some pairings that work well. Okay, so the first one I want to show you, we're going to go ahead and use our Sienna that you see up here at the top of our shelf, and we're going to do a mustard. Now, the Sienna really works well with the crocodile patterns. And in the inspiration bag, and the thing that caught my eye on it when we were in Italy, is that instead of centering the pattern this way on the bag, where you have one of these in the center, they actually did it half and half. And you can actually see that on this bag right here, how half of this is one crocodile pattern and the other half is the smaller crocodile pattern. Same piece of faux, it's just two different areas of the pattern. So a lot of us tend to want to be very symmetrical, and I'm one of those symmetrical people, but I wanted to go ahead and take inspiration from that, and that's the reason why we use crocodile so often for this bag. Not necessary, but we really think that this is a beautiful, beautiful color for this, especially with summer coming up. Be bright and happy. This is a mustard that is, it's bright, but it's not in your face bright. It's not neon. It's really beautiful. We suggest sand for the thread color. We suggest the chambray brown by Tilda. And of course, we suggest the bronze hardware. Now, I am going to just kind of throw in here this dark brown thread. The dark brown thread would really look well with it well, if you want a contrast. Okay, so just depends if you want to kind of match the faux, you're going to do the sand. If you want a contrast, you're going to use the dark brown, because there's a lot of dark brown in this mustard. For the leather, we suggest our embossed ostrich, which is just like the bag we just showed you. Go ahead and bring this over for you. This is just a really gorgeous piece of leather. We have this in light brown and in dark brown, but really for summer, we think that the light brown is the best option. We suggest the chambray beige as the lining for this. Of course, the hardware we still suggest as the bronze, and then we suggest the dark brown here for the color of the thread. Now, the leather is 10% off this week. The mustard is 10% off this week, as well as the hardware kits, as I mentioned earlier. All right, let me move all this out of the way. And the next thing we are going to talk about is our designer bag inspiration. So designer bag inspiration is obviously our segment where we look at some bags to kind of give us some inspiration. And of course, today is all about bag flaps. So we're going to talk about different flap shapes and techniques. But first, I want to look at some of the basic flaps we see all the time. The dimensions and proportions can vary, but most bag flaps come in the same basic shape. So first one, rectangle. This is obviously the most basic flap shape. It's rectangle, it's simple, it's classic, and it's the starting point for almost every other flap shape. So if you have a rectangle pattern piece, you can cut it to pretty much any flap you want. Next, we have rounded flaps, and rounded flaps is another very classic shape. We see them a lot on saddlebags and satchels. The next thing is a triangle flap, or sometimes called an envelope flap. The name triangle is a little bit of a misnomer. We call them triangles because they come to a point, but the pattern piece we use usually has 5 sides, not 3. So here's a couple of examples of that. On the YSL bag on the top, we can see all 5 edges. And the yellow bag below it is a Bottega Veneta bag, and you can see it really looks like a triangle. But if you look at the back of the bag, basically the back and the flap are one piece, and you can see the straight sides on that flap just form the back of it. So it is, something that is, again, I think the triangle part name comes from the point, but reality is it's really not a triangle. The next thing we have are hexagon flaps, and hexagon flaps are called that because they have 6 sides. So the Brahmin bag on the top is really interesting because the main part of the bag has a zipper closure, and the flap is for the external pocket. And we don't see that very often. I like that so much that I recreated it in a video I made a while ago. It was an American Stitchers pattern, and it was called the Kirsten. We do have a free pattern piece for the flap that you can download from our website. And the link is just simplyclassic.net/Kirsten. And I want to point one thing out. As you can see, the original Brahmin bag has more of the flap showing, while my version on the right almost looks like it only has 4 sides. And it's really just a matter of how you line up the piece when you're constructing your bag. If you want your flap to look more like the original, just make the straight edges a little bit longer. So those are the basic shapes, nothing revolutionary there, but it's good to see some different examples. So now I want to talk about a few ways that you can take those shapes and turn them into something different. So one very easy change you can make is to add a tab to your flap. So this is essentially the same Chanel bag, but one has a tab on the flap and one doesn't. The one on the right with the tab, you see they added a little bit of a concave curve to the bottom of that flap. Next, we have double flap, and this one has 2 rounded flaps on it, one for the main part of the bag and one for the pocket underneath. They made the bag all in one color, but this would really be a cool opportunity to color block. Here's another example of a double flap bag, but this one has 2 different shaped flaps, a triangle and a rectangle, and they're different colors. So in the past, I have kind of played around and tried to make a double flap bag. I think they're very attractive. And I tried it, of course, with faux leather, but it really wasn't super successful. And I really feel like it's something that, maybe will be in a leather project box in the future. It's definitely much easier to do with leather than it is with faux leather. But one way you can replicate this, if you like this look with faux leather, is to actually take 2 flaps, stitch them together into one flap, and then just basically use it that way. So a faux double flap, I guess is what you would call it. Now, this Pauline bag is really neat because the flap slips into the space in front. It has hidden magnets to help keep it closed, and they make this particular bag using a mold so it holds its shape, and it has that little pocket in the front where the flap goes. You could do something similar by just stitching a flap keeper on the exterior of the bag or the interior, either way, to keep it in place, or making a slit. If you have a leather bag, it's a little hard with faux leather, but if you have some kind of slit that you could slide that flap into, that would be a good way to do that as well. So this is, of course, another unusual bag, something we've seen a lot of lately. It is the Puzzle bag by Loewe. This flap is asymmetrical, and it does not have any hardware, not even a magnetic snap to hold it closed. Instead, the flap just folds over and sits loosely on the bag. Now, this bag does have a zipper on the inside to help close it. You can see the zipper pull there on the yellow one. So these are 2 different styles. The one on the left is called the Puzzle Edge, which is a bit slouchier, and the flap sits almost on top of it, where the bottom one is the Puzzle Hobo bag, which has the flap folding over the front and mirroring the shape of the panel underneath it. And then I had to include a Strathberry bag here because this one here actually reminds me of our Busta pattern, and we're going to be talking about Strathberry in just a bit. But it looks like the flap is tucked behind that bar, but it's not. It's actually attached to the bar. It's really cool how they did this, and flaps are really a good opportunity to use unique hardware that isn't necessarily functional, like a bar in this case, or decorative concho. And I'm going to tell you more about this particular hardware on our Thursday thread, again, because we're going to talk about Strathberry. This is also a really good example of how you can completely change a rectangular flap by cutting out little notches around the edges to give it a more interesting shape. So those are just two little tiny notches, and you just totally change the look of that flap. And I find myself doing a lot when making bags. So I'm going to show you a few examples of our Simply Classic patterns that have flaps. So the Roseanne is a flap that, again, starts kind of like from a rectangle, just the rectangles in the other direction. And it's more of a hexagon, we noticed, than anything else. The flap is rounded, has little rounded edges, but essentially it's a long, skinny hexagon flap. The Sorella on the right has curves in the flap, and then in addition, it has a piece that is attached to the front of that flap. And the Sienna is just like way out of the ballpark. You're starting with a super skinny rectangle, especially the one on the right is just basically a long rectangle. The other two are rectangles that have been tapered in to kind of form almost triangle looking flap. The Busta is a bag that has more of a classic shape. However, in the bottom, we have a concave curve instead of a convex curve like the gemella below it. Okay, two basic shapes with just different curves to the flap. And then the Kaplan, the one on the right, is again a very classic shape, but it actually has an accent on the flap with that flap keeper. Another great way to get more out of your patterns is to mix and match pattern pieces, and flaps are great opportunities to do that. It's really a great place to start. So you can put the Sienna flap on the gemella or the... So we're going to move on to Sharpen Your Skills. And Sharpen Your Skills is where we look at sewing techniques to help you become a better bag maker. And today I want to show you how to create your own bag flaps with different shapes. So we're going to go to the overhead, and I'm going to show you the ruler that I use to do this. Now, this is the Creative Grids multi-size curved corner ruler. Okay, it is a ruler that I use all the time when making flaps. I'm going to put this white behind it, and maybe you can see that a little bit better. It has 4 corners. You have just a straight pointed corner. Then you have a 3-inch radius, a 1.5-inch radius, and a 2-inch radius, all on the same ruler. So if you start with a rectangle, what I would do is take the 2-inch radius corner, lay it down, and go ahead and cut my shape. I would turn it, cut it, and do the same thing on this side. And that gives you a very basic flap by just using the corner of this ruler. Now, if you take this ruler and you use a different corner, so in this case, let's go ahead and use the 3-inch radius instead of the 2-inch. So the 3-inch radius is a wider curve. I would go ahead and cut it, turn it this way, cut it, and then you can see this is more of almost a circle compared to this one here. You see the difference? Same ruler, just a different edge. You get a very different looking flap. Now you can go wild, and you can take a flap and you can find the center, which a lot of times I do, and then take your ruler and line up the center of the corner of the 3-inch radius with your center lines, and then cut this way. So all you're doing is changing the configuration of the ruler, and now you have a totally different shape flap. And again, this is one that you would probably show part of the sides here and then have that deep curve. Another thing you can do is this one here has got the ruler working in more than one direction. So what I did again was found the center. I used the 3-inch radius, and instead of laying it on the flap, I laid it beneath the flap, and I cut a concave curve. Then I used the 1.5-inch radius corner and put it in each corner on each side, one here, to actually give this multiple curves. So we have someone here that said DIYer girl says creative. I like the idea of pivoting the corner to the center of the flap. Yes, totally different idea. And there's so many more that I'm sure you guys could come up with. We do sell these creative grid rulers. Again, one of my favorite rulers, use it all the time. If you actually purchase a Simply Classic pattern, almost every single time you have a curve, it's going to match up to one of these curves, because that's how I do my patterns. Now, this is a totally different idea of how to use this ruler. This is like the Chanel curve, right? That concave curve we see at the bottom of some of those Chanel flaps. So what I did was actually folded this in half and then turned it and took the 3-inch radius and kind of laid it in here to get it started. But you see here, I didn't bring this down. If I actually followed this ruler and brought it all the way down to the center, what would happen is when you open this up, you have like a mountain in the center of your flap, which would be okay if that's the kind of flap you want. That would actually kind of be a cool flap. But what I decided to do was to actually take this, lay it down, start the curve, and then just go straight with it all the way across. And then that gives us our concave Chanel curve. So again, Creative Goods ruler, great investment. You're going to go and use it many, many times. I highly recommend it. It is a great addition to your workroom if you don't already have it. So we are going to move on to the Thursday thread. And in the Thursday thread, we talk about a sewing story, either a story about me, a story about one of you, or some history. And today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about Strathberry. Now, the brand Strathberry is from Scotland, and it's a very young brand. So the history is a little short, but they have really become popular very, very fast. Strathberry was founded by a married couple named Guy and Leanne Hundleberry in 2013. They opened a retail store in Edinburgh where they sold luxury leather goods, and the company's Scottish roots are reflected in the name. So Strath means wide river valley in Scots, and berries were traditionally used as textile dye in Scotland. So that's how they came up with the name. So unfortunately, they ended up closing their shop just 6 months after opening it. They found that most of their customers were from North America and Asia. So they really didn't get a lot of foot traffic. So instead, they made it an e-commerce company, which obviously made a lot more sense. So they launched a Kickstarter campaign to raise money to expand it. And if you're not familiar with a Kickstarter, it's a crowdfunding website where regular everyday people can give money to help launch a project. And in return, they get something from the company. So customers were able to purchase exclusive products at a discount. And then Strathberry raised over 120 pounds from the campaign. They started out with 10 men's bags and 15 women's bags, which were made from Scottish tweed and equestrian leather. So these are some of the designs. They're very classic and minimal. They're usually neutral in tone, and most of their bags are one solid color. You'll also notice that all of their bags have some variation of that same metal bar hardware with little metal balls on each end. We saw that on one of the flaps earlier, and it's called the Strathberry Music Bar, and it's a signature of the brand. It was inspired by a vintage leather folio like this one here, which the founders saw and really loved. These were used for carrying sheet music. And when the folio is closed, the bar gets hooked around the handle. Then you can open it and it becomes a place to put your sheet music. So the Hundlebees decided to incorporate a similar piece of hardware into all of their bags. And it's not usually functional, it's decorative, but it makes their bags instantly recognizable. Strathberry made headlines in 2017 when Meghan Markle made her first official appearance with Prince Harry, while carrying a Strathberry bag. This was after they were engaged. So the media attention boosted their sales and really helped them grow quickly. Today, they exclusively use Spanish leather, and all of their bags are produced in Spain. This is a photo that shows one of their artisans at work. And we had a little discussion about how nice and neat their workroom is. And, you know, we maybe can strive for that, but that's not happening here at Simply Classic, I can promise you. Strathberry has stayed in the news by collaborating with different artists and celebrities. When they launched a colorful bag, it's usually part of a collaboration. So for example, this is a bucket bag collection that they did with Sarah Jessica Parker. They already carried this bag in a larger size, but they worked with her to launch a new mini size and some new colors like red and pink. Here's another unique collection that they did with a French artist who goes by Mademoiselle Maurice. She creates street art to use origami, so they incorporated that into the bag. And finally, this is a collection they released with a British fashion label called Shrimps. Shrimps has a very whimsical and playful style with florals and embroidery. It's different from Strathberry's classic aesthetic, but when you bring them together, the result is something really unique and beautiful. Look at how they used faux pearl instead of metal to make Strathberry music bar hardware. So I am really impressed with how fast Strathberry has grown. Even though they're only a 12-year-old company, they're really making a name for themselves in the handbag world. One reason for their success is that they only create bags and accessories. They're not trying to do clothing or shoes or anything else. They're really focusing on what they do best, which is leather bags. So our next segment is Artistry Avenue, and this is where we feature you, our customers. These are bags made by you, and we share photos each week. If you post your bag in the Simply Classic bag making community on Facebook, or email them to share@simplyclassic.net, and we share your bag on a Workroom, then you will receive a PDF pattern of your choice. This is open worldwide, and if you are featured, you have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you would like. So now let's take a look at this week's artists. So Debbie made a Sienna, and she used this gorgeous blue patent crocodile and nickel hardware. I love how she used a chain strap instead of using a leather or faux leather strap. And I also really like how she used different parts of the leather to create this. So you can see the main part of the bag is the larger scales, and then the flap is the smaller one. Great use of fabrics there. Nance Jack also created a Sienna, and she made this for her mother. It is the medium size. She added an exterior pocket and a zipper pocket along with this really beautiful hardware. It is our denim blue crocstridge or crocodile ostrich. And I really like how she flipped the texture horizontally on the bottom where she has the hardware. You can see it almost makes it look like a bow. And then of course she left the flap off. I mean, you can do that. This is amazing. She did an excellent job with this. I love how she changed this up to make it her own. And then we had to show this Busta by Kathy. She did an amazing job on this. She used a white embossed crocodile leather. She used a bow on the flap, and I love how it turned out. I mean, it is just absolutely gorgeous. You know, the Busta is two pattern pieces if you count the flap, but it's basically just one pattern piece for the whole body. I mean, it's really a super easy pattern, and it's just the way that the pattern piece was designed that makes it easy to get this bag shape. I mean, it's really, if you haven't tried the Busta yet, it's a very, very classy shape and easy bag to make. So thank you and congratulations to all of our artists. Please email us within 30 days to let us know which PDF pattern you would like. So before we move on to our Q&A, we're going to give away a PDF pattern for the Sienna. So to enter, type the keyword prize in the chat, and we'll have the computer pick a winner while we do our Q&A. Prize, P-R-I-Z-E. And this is a PDF pattern. So if you are somewhere else, not in the United States, it is open worldwide. Please go ahead and participate. One entry per person, please. Just type prize one time. So we are going to take a look at our questions. And the first question we had was by Nancy. And she said, can I do a drop-in lining and a magnetic closure on the Julie? And yes, absolutely you can. Here would be my suggestions. On the drop-in lining, should be easy enough. All you do is once you get your lining and your main part of your bag completed, you're going to fold the top of each one over a 1/2 inch, slip the lining inside the bag, stitch around, you're done, good to go. Easy to do. As far as the magnetic snap, instead of adding the magnetic snap to the upper lining, what I would suggest is to make some kind of tab, kind of like the, we're going to go to the overhead for just a second, kind of like this bandit bag, something like this, where you have some width there, because if you don't, it's going to pull the bag in so much. I think it's going to distort the shape of it. So I would add some kind of tab or something to it and put the magnetic snap on that. Okay. Patricia says, can you please create a pattern like the Floron blend? Okay, well, I'll have to check that out. I don't know if I'm familiar with them. I appreciate you. I love it when you guys send me suggestions because believe me, I look. Kelly says, I like the Kaplan, but would like to use a metal bridge. You can certainly do that. That would be really pretty. You would just maybe need to change the width of the accent to make sure it fits obviously within your bridge. And then Cynthia says, I want to make a clutch with a flap. Okay, so what I would suggest, I think that would be a great idea. And what I would suggest you do is maybe start with the Simply Classic clutch. You can go ahead and create a flap pattern from, in any shape that you would like, kind of like what we did earlier, with the Creative Grids ruler, you can create whatever you'd like. And before you stitch it all together, go ahead and stitch that onto the back. And then I think you can either keep the zipper closure on that or not. You could probably just use the flap as a closure and then go ahead and add some kind of, thumb lock or twist lock to that flap. I would probably make the flap the same size as the clutch, but not necessarily. Again, as I always say, a pattern is a suggestion, not a rule. So we would love to see your version of the Simply Classic clutch with a flap. I think that'd be great. So Zena says, I haven't thought much about mixing pattern pieces in bag making. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think we kind of get, I don't want to say stuck on it, but you have to really think outside the box. And a lot of times we buy a pattern because we like the look of that pattern, right? We like the look of it. We like the aesthetic of it. And so we want to recreate that specific thing. But, sometimes those little changes can make big differences. It can really change the look of a bag. So I try, encourage you to kind of do that and to just see what you come up with. So Vanette says, could you recommend a beginner purse? Yes. So what I suggest always for us as a beginner bag is the Simply Classic clutch. It is just a really simple, very classic style of bag and clutch. Now, if you want something larger, I suggest the Julie. The Julie is by far our most popular pattern, and it's really a great bag because there's no curves. It's all straight lines. You can actually cut the entire bag by measurements. You just basically stitch all the lines together and it's done. The other thing that's really great about the Julie is that there's no intersecting seams. So a lot of the patterns that I have, not all of them, but a lot of them do not have intersecting seams. So it doesn't get super bulky at the top. The seams are offset so that you don't have them, making a problem with the thickness. We're going to go to the overhead. I actually have a Julie right here, and I'm going to show you. This here is the Julie, and the Julie is actually after a Dunium bark. I'm going to try to zoom out just a little bit so you can see it better. The Julie is after a Dunium bark pattern. It's got a really nice front pocket here. It has that same pocket in the back. It does have a zipper closure in it. And of course, we have the normal zipper pocket, slip pocket on the inside. No intersecting seams. What I mean by that is the front seams are here and here. The back seams are here and here. And the side seams for the upper lining are on the inside, and they're here. So as you're stitching this upper lining to the exterior, there's no side seam on the exterior of the bag to intersect there, and therefore you don't have that immense bulk as you're trying to stitch it. Same thing here, no intersecting seam. You have a straight upper lining with no seam on the inside, but you have the seams here on the outside. So you're not trying to, get that, fight with that bulk there. Being a larger bag, it's a little, I don't want to say easier, but in a way it is. I mean, larger bags typically are easier because you have more room to work with on your machine. So Mary says, do you have a zipper strap pattern that converts to a backpack straps? Yes, we do. We have the Farfalla. We're going to grab one right here. And the Farfalla is a pattern we featured a couple weeks ago. It's kind of could be a sling, okay, or it could be a backpack. Very unique. Again, something I saw in Italy that when I saw it in the store, I thought, oh, I have to replicate that. But on the back, you have a strap that unzips. And I'm going to go ahead and unzip it. And as you unzip it, you can wear it as a backpack, okay? Zip it up. Move one of the straps here from one side to the other so that they're together. And then you can wear it as a sling, okay? You can wear it in the front, of course, or in the back, either way. And all you have to do is there are strap adjusters on these straps here. They're 3/4 inch, and you can go ahead and adjust that accordingly to make these straps as big or as little as you need. And yeah, it's really a cool design, and I really like the zipper part on the straps, right? Makes it super easy. It is a bucket bag style and very unique style. Actually, I think this was last week's pattern of the week. And this tab here, you can either make from leather or faux leather, or we also have wooden buttons that you can buy to add that. It's more decorative. The entire thing, I'm going to go to the overhead here, is actually the way it's closed, held closed, is with the backpack straps, okay? That's how this bag actually closes. You have a tab here that the straps run through, and that way it holds this closed. It prevents, or I don't say prevents, you never know, right? People are crazy, but it helps alleviate pickpocketers, okay? Great question. So Raquel says, when making a leather bag flap, how keep it from rippling? So I think what you're referring to sometimes is that as you take two flaps, you put them right sides together and you try to stitch. Sometimes you have some problems with it, especially with curves. When you turn it, you get bumps, right? The way to alleviate that is once you stitch it right sides together, before you turn it, make sure you either cut this seam really, really close, meaning like between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, or cut little triangles. Like either you can use some pinking shears, or you can just use scissors to cut little triangles into your actual flap. And that way, when you turn it, it will help alleviate that. I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and show you what I mean. Okay, we're going to go to the overhead, and I am going to, we're going to assume that there's two flaps. I'm going to zoom you in, and they are right sides together, okay? And so now we have our flap right sides together. When you go to turn this, it's going to buckle right in this area. So if you take and within your seam allowance, cut little triangles like this in your flap, okay, right in where the curves are. And you do that on both sides. What happens is that when you go to turn this and this gets bunched up, the fabric has a place to go. Okay, so it bunches up, but it's not going to bunch up as much because you have space there and it gives the fabric a place to turn to. Okay, so anytime you have curves, whether it's on a flap, whether it's on maybe the top of the bag where the zipper goes, you always want to go ahead and what we call them relief cuts, make little relief cuts in the seam allowance to help that bag turn and stay nice and flat. That's a really great question. Okay, Cindy says, the Julie kit for our Sacramento Expo, will you have all of the pieces cut out for us? Yes. We're going to have the pieces cut, stabilized. We're going to have the lining cut with the woven interfacing on the back. Because of time restraints, we might have to have a few things done on the back, like the strap, like the handles. I mean, we'll probably have done for you. We just don't want to waste time on things that are maybe kind of second nature. We do want to spend time on the construction of the bag. So we're going to really try to make sure we have things ready to go so we can get started and we can get that bag done in the time allotted. So Deborah says, will Simply Classic be getting any printed vinyls? So we do have some geometrics. We do have some different types of like that, but I think what you're asking may be text. And I have a couple of things I'm looking at. You know, right now, with the tariffs being kind of in question, we're trying to not get too crazy with orders. We do have a 90-day reprieve right now. We're trying to get some things restocked. They do send me some samples here and there, and I am looking at a couple of them. And if it's something you're interested in, you know, not only Deborah, but anybody, if you would really like that, let me know. Because, you know, a lot of times we're guessing as to what we think people would like. We want to stay with kind of classic colors, classic styles, classic shapes, classic things, because that's kind of our makeup, right? That's kind of what we do. However, if there's something specific you really want to see, email them to me and let me know, because it really helps me know what to look for when we're shopping with our suppliers. So we have a question here. I have a Juki TL18. What kind of leather do you recommend? So without sounding too biased, I recommend Simply Classic leather. And the reason why is because our leather is lambskin, very thin, easy to work with, about at 0.8 millimeters. You need to stabilize it just like faux. It's really the same thickness as faux. The difference between the leather and the faux is that the leather's denser, meaning it's got more, what's right there? It's just, it's not thicker, it's just a denser product. So sometimes I think that's what gives our machines a hard time when we're not using an industrial machine. But I have, as you know, a Burnett 08, and I would like to say that we do have a resource page, not to get off topic, but we do have a resource page. And I was on our website of the Premier Stitching, where we recommend you buy the Burnett's. They're on sale this week. So if you're interested in Burnett, check that out, because you can get one for a really good price. But anyway, the domestic straight stitch machines like the Juki TL18 and the Burnett sew the leather really great. You really want to make sure you stay 0.8 millimeters or less, though. Don't get too thick with it, because it will cause some problems, especially when you have intersecting seams. So if you are using leather, look at bags that don't have those intersecting seams, like the Julie, like the Farfalla. I believe the Boost is one too. Those will do much better for you, and you'll have a lot more success with them. Okay, we have Sonia. She says, what size embossed leather would I need for this Sienna? So I believe the Sienna, and I'm going from memory, I'm not sure, maybe 5 to 6 square feet. If you go onto our website, simplyclassic.net, and at the top bar, click on resources, you will see a leather conversion chart. And on that leather conversion chart, we have all of the Simply Classic patterns, and it tells you how many square feet of leather you need. So on the chart, you have a actual and a recommended. And what that means is that when we do our conversion, let's say it comes to 5.06 square feet, but we recommend 7. And the reason why is because you always want to get about 30% more leather than you need. As you know, leather hides can be all crazy shapes, right? You've got different spaces that jut out. And when they measure a leather hide, they're actually measuring every single one of those little things. And while they are useful for little pieces in your bag, you know, when you are actually looking to place your larger pieces, you really are going to need to make sure you have enough space and room. So I think you're probably going to need 2 hides for the Sienna, basically, if you are looking especially to make the strap with it. But also remember that the strap, you're probably not going to, with a lambskin, you know, lambskins are not huge, and you're probably going to need to piece it or create a strap with a buckle like I did for mine. You're not going to get the full 60 inches out of a lambskin. So you're going to have to get creative with that, use hardware, different things to really make it unique. So Diane says, where would I get a metal bridge like the one we see on the feature bag? That's a good question. So Kelly says Amazon has bridges for bag making. So there you go. I did not know that. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. I think they're really pretty. And you know, a lot of times when I look at bags for inspiration, I not only look at the bag, I look at the hardware, and I try to make sure that we carry the hardware for you to make the bag, right? I mean, that makes sense. And so I'm always looking for new, different kinds of hardware. And a lot of times I'm having to work with my hardware supplier to create those pieces of hardware. So it's definitely an interesting and fun process. So Deb says, is there a Skyver you recommend? So kind of like industrial machines, all Skyvers are kind of created equal. Okay, all industrial machines are kind of created equal. They all work in the same basic way. So I have a Texo Skyver. Now, I really don't use it that much because our lambskin, you don't have to skive. It works fine on the machines without having to skive it because it's so thin. However, if you do have thicker leather, and if you do work with leather regularly, it is a good idea to get one. You can talk to Sunny's Sewing Machine, and they will help you. Sam over there is great, and he can certainly recommend a Skyver, you know, whether it's a Thor, a Texo, I mean, they've tons of different kinds. Cowboy, I think, has one. I would say get with them and tell them what you need. But again, they're all kind of the same. They just have different name brands on there. All right, we're going to move on and go ahead and let's find out who the computer picked as a winner. So Dalva, all right, congratulations. You have won the Sienna pattern. So thank you so much for joining us and congratulations to you. Please go ahead and email share@simplyclassic.net. If you can do that within the next 24 hours, that would be great. It just helps us not have to keep track of who we owe things to. So just go ahead and email that and we'll get that to you. So thank you so much for joining me in the Bag Makers Workroom. Join us next Thursday, June 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be talking all about hip bags and belt bags. So until next week, everybody, happy sewing.